Hello. Welcome to the Confessions in the Powder Room podcast. This is our first podcast, and we're so happy to have the opportunity to share. My name is CJ, and I identify as a 40-something-year-old.
And my name is E.G. Glam, and I identify as a 50-something-year-old. We are both passionate about the journey as women as we get older. We've both had experiences across the board and oftentimes notice there isn't a space for women to truly discuss and share in a safe space. This will be a bold and fearless podcast to provoke thought, discuss things that happen with women. Our first episode today will be titled Sending Women Out to Pasture.
All right. And so, just as a disclaimer, we aren't psychologists, we're not therapists, we're not associated with any medical industry, but we've both had lifetime experiences of you name it. We've both experienced all of the various isms that we face in society: ageism, racism, sexism, divorce, raising children, single parenthood, layoffs that take place in corporate America, having to reinvent yourself over and over again, addictions, and domestic abuse. So between the two of us, we you name it, we've probably gone through it. And our goal in this podcast is to bring awareness and talk about the important stuff that women over 40 go through in this lifetime.
All right, so let's make some introductions. My name is E.G. Glam. I'm 50 something, and I actually have worked in corporate America for a very long time. I have a family, and I've been through a lot of transitions in corporate America, where in now I'm currently underemployed. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more as we get further in our episodes, but just wanted to let you know that I'm excited to share.
That I completely agree with you, EG. And similar, my background is I worked in corporate America in various capacities with latest journey in the tech industry. And over the past couple of years, I have, been laid off and always having to reassess, where things stand for me personally and professionally, and what my northern star is. And so I'm also excited to share, your journey and my journey. And I'm sure other women, will identify and, be able to, understand that whatever you may be feeling is real, and we want to put a spotlight on the different things that come up as being over 40 years old. So the interesting thing is ageism in corporate America. According to the Washington Post, since the beginning of 2020, a large percentage of women in the workforce from 40 to 65 years old, they actually lost their jobs. So that was 14%, or saw their work hours reduced. So that was 13% of the women in the survey, or were furloughed at 9%, or have their salary and hours cut. And so that's 4%. And even doing a deeper dive, the Washington Post found that job losses for Black and Hispanic women were higher in comparison to white and Asian women. 20% for Black women and 23% for Hispanic women, in comparison to the 13% white women and 14% for Asian women. In addition, unemployment, although it has dropped since the beginning of the pandemic, they have found that 70% of women over 40 who were unemployed have been out of work for 6 months or more. And I just
That's
find
great.
that it's just so interesting and disheartening, being a Black woman under over 40 years old.
Wow. That is significant when you're looking at the stats in comparison to, is this, my first question would be, is this uh, a certain demographic, across the United States? Are we speaking on a global level or just on a level that this is just standing for the domestic individuals here located in the United States? If so, that's pretty significant.
It is significant, and I know you and I have talked about, I know so many people out of work, so many people underemployed, and those people, they look like me. They look like us. They're black women who just are not able to get back into the workforce.
Wow, it's just really interesting. So, do you have any other fun facts over there?
Yeah, I do. So here's some other fun numbers to absorb. So on top of that, nearly one quarter of women who lost their income increased their credit card debt. Uh, 20% had to borrow from their family, and then 11% were forced to take money from a retirement savings account, so their 401k or IRA. And when you reach a certain age, you can't necessarily just replace that money as fast as when you were in your 30s.
Absolutely. Agreed. You can't. Wow. That's interesting. Thanks for sharing, CJ Posh.
So let's hear about what's going on in the social media streets and what others are noticing or experiencing. This first clip comes from corporate clapback. And she's going to talk about 3 reasons why corporations choose not to hire older employees.
Yeah, yeah.
First reason is imagery. Youth rules corporate America. There's this preconceived notion that youth signifies energy, vitality, and beauty, while age signifies weakness, decline, and unattractiveness. How does age show up to those making hiring decisions? Well, in a few ways. They think it shows up through preliminary graying of the hair, old style of clothing, and inflexible thought processes. 2 is language and communication. Here's what this sounds like. You ever work with a person that says, back in my day, we used to do A, B, and C like this? I experienced this, and an example of this is when we were all working on a project, and we were in a meeting. And there was one coworker, when we would talk about the project specifics, she would pipe up and say, 25 years ago when I was a manager, we used to do it like this. And then you read the room and look around at everybody on the team, and they're rolling their eyes in the back of their head like, oh, here we go again. Number 3 is health. Employers are afraid that their check engine light is coming on. They don't want to be bothered with it, and it screams liability to them. The worst thing that an older employee can do is come to work and start sharing their health issues with other team members or confiding in other team members. That shit gets out. And then when the employer notices that same employee taking a lot of sick time or going on leave, they're going to start managing them out. And honorable mention, employers fear that older employees don't have the mental capacity to stay on top of contemporary trends. This includes business trends, technological trends, and AI.
Wow. So what do you think about that?
That is so interesting. I do recall working with someone that I would hear, she would say, back in my day, this is the way we do it. If something ain't broke, don't fix it. So I can agree and attest to that. Some of the things in regards to, the hair graying or um, the style of clothing, we can always keep ourselves relevant by making sure that, um, our personal upkeep and we're keeping with the current trends and making sure that our selection of or style of clothing is relevant or comfortable for the workplace.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are good points that you just brought up about what we can do to, overcome that. And I just think it's so amazing and hurtful that you spend so much time working on your career, working on your craft. And in some cases, when you're feeling that, you finally, have the confidence and the experiences to be successful in the job, and now all of that is pretty much diminished from the perspective of, you're not keeping up on business trends, you're not keeping up on technology trends, you're not keeping up on, whatever the hiring leader, or the hiring manager may think. So it's disheartening, but you're right, there are definitely strategies that, we can take, to try to overcome, the perception.
Absolutely.
We're going to hear from another person. Her name is T Tads, and she's going to talk about her experiences of finding a job in the workforce at the age of 50.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find a job. I had a virtual interview this morning. I thought it was going to be on camera. And so I got myself all ready to make up my hair, put my clothes on, and got ready for the interview. And it turned out it was like a chat, just a chat with a recruiter. I wasn't on the camera. So I just submitted my resume and my references and stuff. And hopefully they said I might hear from somebody by the end of the week or later. But I was so bummed about it because I'm really scared about how the fact that I'm 52 and that I've been a stay-at-home mom for so long and I have this huge gap in my resume in terms of my work experience, that's going to be a hit against me. Like the job that I have to do is kind of physical and I'd be on my feet. I'd have to think on my feet. I'd have to be really energetic and I'd have to be able to do physical things and stuff. So I'm worried that people think that somebody who is over 50 is not able to do those things, because I'm so surprised about what people think about women, particularly when you're above 50, that like it's almost like you're an elderly person. And I feel like if I was able to be like on camera, I could like present myself and say, look, I'm not old. It's just crazy the concept and ideas that people have in their minds about somebody, about a woman who's over 50. And I know that ageism is something that definitely affects women when they're job seeking, and not to mention the fact that you are a stay-at-home mom, that goes against you too because you don't have as much experience as somebody else. It's just the hits keep coming, but I have to stay positive. I have to be the president of my fan club. I have to be my biggest stan. I have to hype myself up and say, if it doesn't work out this time, I have to just keep trying. Like, we just can't give up on ourselves. We have to be our number one cheerleader because there's so much against us in this world and so much against us when we're trying to make our lives better. So we just have to hype ourselves up, be our number one fan, and just keep it moving. We can do hard things because we've done it before.
All right. Love her positive outlook. What do you think about her experiences?
Loving that positive energy. It's important to stay positive. Some tips I have here. It's important to stay positive because you are relevant, you are important. And the thing that we can kind of get mired down in with is that we get a few rejections. So now we feel as though uh, we're just no longer relevant. We feel we start to believe the reasons that she pointed out there. But it's important that you turn that around daily. You keep those positive vibes going, and
Yes.
you're able to push through for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. And, the messaging that society gives us about, it's already a challenge in terms of trying to manage the things that start happening, when you reach a certain age,
Absolutely.
um, menopause and your face changing and wrinkles coming up, and now the gray hairs get serious, and just knowing that you're not the youngest person on the block, it's already daunting. And so having to manage that in a job search is also challenging. But I love your tips and the recommendations that you made to overall overcome some of the things that we have to face in the workforce.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the next segment of our podcast is called Flip Sides of the Coin. So we're both going to take a different views of, the topic. And so I'll start off and I'm going to take and give my opinion on women being too old in the workplace. So I actually do have personal experience when I was younger, earlier in my career by being bullied by older women in the workforce. I was actually, again, in my early 30s, and I was part of a brand new team for a manufacturing company. And the person who was leading the team was a Black woman who was probably in her 40s and 50s. Um, and EG, she gave us hell. She terrorized us. She
That's
would
so unfortunate.
gaslight us. She would put meetings on our schedule at like 8 o'clock in the morning. And so we're all rushing to make sure we were on time. And then she wouldn't show up for the meeting. Um, she would
Goodness.
she would have meetings with executive leadership and wouldn't trickle down any of the information to us. And so if we found ourselves in the same room with our executive leader at the time, and he would reference something that he talked, that was important to the group for all of us to know, we would look at him with, headlights, deer in headlights. Um,
Withholding valuable information. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And, I had another coworker on that same team who was also, we were all around the same age, but in her particular case, she was, supermodel looks, like could easily grace a cover of a magazine. And she caught another layer of hell from this manager. And it was clear that, in general, she had a problem with all of her ages and she felt, perhaps intimidated. She felt like she had a flex, being the older person on the team. And then with my coworker, the extra layer was, she was just a gorgeous, Black woman. And so I feel as women in the workforce, when we're over 40, we have got to stay relevant. We've got to be sociable, just in general, but definitely to our younger peers. We have to be open to the younger workforce, and we have to embrace the younger workforce instead of being seen as the old hen, quote unquote, on the team that you know talking about processes and talking about things that happen that's not even relevant. So if you're not going to be an evolved woman over the age of 40, over the age of 45, that just makes hell for younger people on the team, and if you're not going to be evolved, and if you're not going to be cooperative, then you don't belong in the workforce. And I feel like you should try to do something different. Try something entrepreneur, open up your own business, so you're not having to, impact younger people in corporate America.
Yeah. So, someone at that age should be, wanting to open up new avenues for younger individuals. As I always say to anyone, uh, younger folks are our future. So we really have to be open and receptive to new ideas, new processes, and change. And you have to be open to all of that as an employee and a leader as well. So that's the only way we're able to evolve and get better. Things don't always stay the same, and change is good. Taking the view, and my part of this segment I'm taking on the view of women just beginning their peak in their 40s. So, I remember those times. It was really exciting, and I started to, I'm at this place where I'm in this place where I'm like, I can conquer anything. My mind is clear. I'm very sharp, crisp. I want to be able to be as active as I can be, work on projects, be a leader, uh, and multitask multiple projects with individuals, do cross collaborations with other teams in order to work on new processes. So I did remember like my more innovative side, being able to come out, and I was ready to embrace that. Uh, and knowing that when I look back, I still have that burning desire in me, but then I have to ask that question, you know, given that there is ageism that lives out there, is that receptive, if I'm going to be well received when I'm looking at being innovative, sitting on a team, cross collaborating with other teams, and am I going to be able to be relevant and have a seat at the table? I think I'm going to have to fight for that seat a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because already walking into a room as a black woman, that's already a layer of challenge, right? And then walking, over a certain age as a black woman, you're already managing perception, whether you know it or not, you know. Um, and so I can see your point on, having to, basically step it up, in the workforce.
Absolutely. So, regardless of your observations, this is an issue that's occurring for women. It appears that women are impacted once we reach a certain age at all times. So, I just wanted to close here. Join us. We would like for you to take a moment, share your story. Let us know what you've experienced. Do you feel like you've been placed out to pasture after a certain age? We'd like to hear from you for
And let
sure.
us know, and then let us know any other suggestions or solutions that you can provide, to our audience as well. Because I think we'll be interested in hearing, other creative solutions and things that you've done or have experienced to overcome, ageism in the workplace. So our next episode, which we're both personally excited about, is we're going to dive into the myth, or is it a myth, of the angry black woman.
Ooh, I'm ready to discuss that.
Yes, I am too. So join us for our next podcast. Thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time.